I want to introduce my fellow director, Mrs. Dee Dee Stupp, who is chair of the Strategic Planning Committee and also secretary to the Master Board. Mrs. Stupp.
Hi. This is amazing. Thanks for coming, everybody. Not to start on a down note, but hopefully on a note of beauty, I wanted to talk a moment about a fellow Strategic Planning Committee member that we lost a little over a week ago. Her name was Jan Lump, and Jan was a make-a-difference type person. Whatever she became involved in, from taking her dog Teddy to the hospital, to the elementary schools, to her chairing the Marketing and Communications Committee, she left her fingerprint, and she impacted all of our lives. It only took a few short minutes of conversing with Jan before it became clear that this lady was super smart and a huge contributor. Her creativity, her tenacity, her overall participation were integral in completing the strategic plan here at Kelly Greens. She was also very involved in naming the project, the Emerald Project, and furthering it to where it is today. Even though she was 1,200 miles away this summer, she didn't let us forget her. She was texting, emailing, calling, almost on a daily basis. She wrote articles, she created plans, she formulated strategies. She did not let us miss a beat. She was wonderful. Her talent and her leadership cannot be duplicated, and it will be missed terribly. So we say, rest in peace, our dear friend. You've earned it.
On behalf of Jan, she would not allow us to skip a step. So we definitely are moving forward with this, but her spirit is with us as we travel down this path. I'm Linda Heselton, and my plan is to share with you how we got to this point based on a very active group, and then secondly, the output from the focus group sessions. We were extremely fortunate to have 70 plus volunteers who were all owners in this community get actively involved and engaged. And through the process, we ended up articulating multiple roles. So I want to call out the different roles, just for those of you who may not be aware, on all the fingerprints along the way that enable us to be even here today. First, we had a volunteer coordinator, and the coordinator truly orchestrated all the volunteers who were interested in getting involved, how they sign up for things, what the different roles are, you name it. Really shepherded a tremendous amount of energy to get a lot of volunteers fully engaged. We also had a logistics coordinator. So once in a while, we dream up an idea of doing a door drop, which meant somebody actually had to become our United States Postal Service and Kelly Greens and help make that happen. So our logistics coordinator had a team of delivery people who truly went door to door and dropped things on your doorstep. So we definitely want to acknowledge them. And then you experienced today, if you were fortunate enough to come to a focus group session, we had registration reps. It's amazing. Everyone has a name tag. That doesn't just magically happen. And also every person that registered kept a log of that, and then as you signed in, you were able to get yourself recorded as being present. Plus, when we'll talk about the board in a minute, if you attended a focus group live, there was the what did you like most about Kelly Greens, and they orchestrated gathering the data that we were able to share with you today there. Then once you got into the focus group sessions, we had presenters sharing kind of what was going on and where we are in the journey, followed with facilitators and help facilitate and pull out dialogue from you so that we could garner even more data we needed to figure out where are we headed next. And then we said every time all roles were critical, but probably the most critical role we had were scribes, and we have some scribes here today too. Every question that was asked during focus groups, every comment that was made during focus groups by owners was captured. And that was quite a task, and then oftentimes had to be then translated into digital so we could do our culmination. And we already highlighted our friend Bill, but we've had a videographer, and he played an essential role for those of our owners who are not here right now, so that they can stay actively attuned to what's going on. And he recorded all the sessions and any ideas we dreamed up. He was really the one that staged himself to help us deliver that. And as we gathered all the data, we were fortunate enough to even have the talent to do data collection and analyzing the data so we could summarize what were the findings and what were the big takeaways that we have that will get unveiled. From there, tremendous amount of communication authors. Everybody just stepped in and said, I have an idea, I can start to shape that communication, and that was truly part of why everybody's here today, is that the communication effort has been front and center and a lot of people's fingerprints on it. And we had our master planning committee, and that again was made up of owners. So far, everybody we've talked about have been owners in this process. And the master planning committee worked directly with our architect and our construction partners, who are the experts in their industry. And our master planning committee took an active role as to what should we put on the table for focus groups, and then what's being shared here today. Following that, of course, without the leadership that is so essential to make anything successful, our master board was invaluable in providing guidance, getting out of the way once in a while, wherever you went, but asking us, how do I get out of the way? How do I stay in the way? What do you need from me? And we couldn't have done it without them. And then the strategic planning committee was really the arm on behalf of the board that helped shape up what the game plan was going to be. So just want to take a moment and have anyone in the room, oh, and we have one-on-one reps. I forgot them as well. I have two more to say. One-on-one reps. We had, after focus groups, some people wanted follow-ups. So we had players and our owners that would meet with them and further dialogue around what their questions were, give them the facts so that they could really travel in their own way to get the facts and go from there. And then we are introducing a new role today called a scout. And the scout's role, you're going to see happening today. And it's a two-way role. First, the scouts are going to be, as we have question and answer period, the open mic, they'll be listening to say, did we answer the question you asked? And if not, they may write your name down, which is part of why you have name tags, so we can do a follow-up and make sure you get the concrete answer that you're looking for, and make sure that you are educated owners as you continue down this process. Likewise, they're going to be very active in the room. They're information gatherers. It's probably the best way to look at them. We're going to have some exercises going on, and they're going to be the ones kind of helping make it all happen as we go here. So you're going to see them front and center. But don't be shy. If you're one that just isn't going to be fond of getting a mic and standing up and asking your question, tap them. We can do a follow-up with you with our one-on-one reps to make sure we get your answers, your questions answered. But that is truly the role we're starting off with today. So now I would love to have all of our volunteers stand up for a moment so we can recognize you. And don't be shy. Perfect. Thank you. Without you, we would not be here. So the second part of my agenda is to share with you some of the stats that came out from the focus group sessions. We hosted 35 different focus group live sessions, plus one of the sessions was recorded, and we tried to be as transparent, because we've stuck to our principles, as transparent as possible, give you a flavor of the different feedback coming from the different focus groups, and we posted that online. And we'll get to that in a moment, but we did have 406 members in the room going through the process. The online video that was captured for one of the first focus groups, we ended up having 608 views. And that included the 1 hour and 45-minute video that had a lot of the feedback in there, but it also included a brief video that was around 27, 28 minutes long. So we've been tracking and seeing the level of engagement to, number one, determine is this a good path to keep trying to implement. Plus, as we gathered all the feedback, we ended up with 422 total feedback forms. Now that included the hard copy forms, and it also included the digital forms, because we did have an online feedback form. So we were able to gather those. By looking at the owners, because we validated there were owners, in that part of the process. By looking at the owners, we're able to say 333 doors out of 939 doors in this community had a voice in the focus group process. And then, probably a very daunting task, thanks to our scribes, we had over 2,200 comments from owners. And that is a voice that we continue to monitor and watch as we translate the themes down our path. But we're watching all that. I said early on that we had the question right at the get-go, if you signed into a focus group, what do you like best about Kelly Greens? And so we went through the process of having over 300 responses to that question, both online and in person, and the board's back there for the in-person. And we were able to put it into what we call a word cloud. Now, I don't know if you're familiar, and if someone said that to me about 2 years ago, I wouldn't know what they were talking about, so I'll put that definitionally in place. The word cloud is a digital cloud that assesses the frequency of certain words being used to populate out the ones that pop to the top. So let's unveil. Let's unveil what we heard. The show-ups most frequently, location, location, location. Coming in second was the friendly people. You talk about a culture that you want to be part of. Those are two great themes. Followed by the golf course, and then community, and it was overwhelming how many people didn't put down the word everything. They really liked everything about our community. It is my pleasure to introduce Mike Coyner. Mike Coyner is a member of the Master Board. He's also a member of our strategic planning team. He's actually our vice chair on the strategic planning committee. And Mike is going to dig deeper into our findings in the focus group. Mike.
That's the first time we've done this, but I will tell you that I'm up here because of Dee Dee. Because Dee Dee invariably says, you're the one that gets all excited and red-faced and wired and all that kind of stuff, and we want you to talk at this focus group, or this town hall. So I'm up here, and before I get done, I can't help myself. I'm going to be doing exactly that. So please tolerate me if I get a little overly zestful or excited about what I've got to say. So thank you for allowing me to be here. It's already been said, the purpose of the meeting today is validation. It's to come back to you and make sure that we've heard what you have to say and that we've got it right. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to touch on it briefly, but we'll eventually get to Dave Humphrey, our architect, who will come up and show you what we think you've told us that you would like to see. Let me do this. If you'll tolerate this, I'd like to take you on a little bit of a journey from the past to the present, where we are today, and to the future. I want to talk about how we got here. I want to talk about where we are. I want to talk just briefly about where we're going. If I do that and I go back into the past a little bit, it was about 3.5 years ago when the Strategic Planning Committee was formed, and I was an original member of that committee. It was very exciting to think about creating something for the future of Kelly Greens. When we got ready to put that together, one of the things we talked about was not making it a master board committee. In fact, we chose 3 master board members, and then we actually put together a chart of cross-referencing different attributes that we would like to have in terms of where people live and all kinds of different things, and came up with 6 at-large members, and then the committee started to work with those 9 people. We started out with 2 primary focuses. One was infrastructure and one was amenities. And that morphed into, over time, 6 strategic objectives, and most of you have seen those. It's in the strategic plan today, either the executive summary or the large plan altogether. The first 2 of those objectives were infrastructure related. And in fact, we're moving forward on that, and I'm even going to circle back and touch on a couple of things near the end of my little talk here on the infrastructure piece. But today, of course, we're here to talk about what became objective number 3, which is, in fact, enhanced amenities. It took a lot of work to get to eventually the conclusions that we arrived at. And I will tell you that there were literally hundreds of hours put into research. And we went to several sources to try to figure out where to go with this amenity thing. We looked at trade journals and many other sources in looking at the trends in the club industry today. We pulled out databases from a national basis as well as from Southern Florida, even more specifically, to see where are people going with clubs today. Most of you know we visited our competition in Lee County, the other bundled communities in Lee County. It was a brainstorm that Dee Dee had, and it turned out to be a marvelous thing because we met with the people there and learned about both their journey relative to how they got to where they are today, but also the things that they in fact have done. And even more recently, we've had an opportunity to gain some insight from some industry experts. And these are a couple gentlemen that don't have a stake in the Kelly Greens game whatsoever, but they know what they're doing. They're actually internationally recognized in terms of club leadership, and they helped us to validate some of the things that we found. And this is no surprise, but where did that take us? Ultimately, it culminated in recommendations from our committee to take to the board for enhancements in our amenities, in the things that you've heard about so much and read about and that we're talking about today. Things like casual outdoor dining, a major trend in the industry. Things like enhanced wellness centers, beyond our little 500 or 600 square foot thing we got behind us over here with room for a few pieces of equipment. It took us to looking at a pool that's a little different from what I kind of lovingly call our Motel 6 pool out here today, to something that allows for more enhanced social interaction, and I'll come back to that in a couple of minutes too, and additional physical opportunities, physical exercise opportunities, additional time on tennis courts for those casual players that aren't in the leagues, pickleball courts, bocce ball opportunities, and the things that you know we're talking about. Interestingly, as we went through this research process, and in particular when we got out to our competition, we almost stumbled upon something. I won't quite call it quite stumbling because we were looking for some stuff, but we found some interesting information. And if you guys were in any of the presentations we made in the spring, and you've seen it in other venues, you've seen it in the executive summary of the strategic plan, and you can see it in the strategic plan as a whole. We discovered some interesting property value information from our competition, the other bundled communities in Lee County. We found that 3 clubs that did the things that we're talking about doing now have had since 2010 to 2018, the years that we had in question when we looked at it, property value increases from 22 to 38%, 22 to 38% in an 8-year period. Kelly Greens, which at that point in time had not done those things, over the same time period had an average property value increase of 8%. Another club who did not do those things, and which didn't have or doesn't have that one kind of built-in attribute that we have that we call location, and maybe a more beautiful golf course too, those 2 things actually decreased in property value. So 3 that did these things went up significantly. We went up a little bit, and another actually went down. The question has come up back in presentations we made in the spring, and it's going to come up today, I'm going to bet, that can you in fact definitively say that those property values did what they did because of the enhancement or the lack of enhancement to the amenities? Absolutely not. We can't say that. I think there's pretty good anecdotal evidence and additional evidence that we've learned since from industry experts who are seeing the same thing happen outside of Lee County. Collier County, we have examples there and other places as well, that this is not something that's coincidental, that in fact there's a good chance that those things are actually linked. Linda talked about 35 focus groups, 2,200 comments, if I've got this right, something like 400 surveys, whatever the number is. You guys have spoken, and we've heard you, we've listened to you, and interestingly, you've told us what you think about a lot of things, which is what we were after. And what you pointed us toward with those 2 options that we showed you just weeks ago, the west and the east, by a factor of about 2 to 1, was to point in the direction of the east. So when Dave stands up in a few minutes, he's going to show you the east option. But you told us a couple of other things. You told us that the front entrance is something very sacred to us, and in fact that you would like to see us in the future address the front entrance and do even more with it than we've got today. We're talking about a manned gate. I'm not saying we're doing those things, but these are things that came from you. Potential of a manned gate and beautification of that front entrance. Interestingly, the east option created a problem for that. You might remember that the Wellness Center in the east option that you originally saw was located over in that southwest corner, sort of the first grassy area when you first come in. And we've learned that that would be in the way if, in fact, we go forward with enhancement to the entrance. So when Dave stands up, he's going to show you actually two separate new options for the location of the Wellness Center. And he'll go through the reasoning for those, I believe, when he does that, an option A and an option B. And in fact, before you leave here today, we're going to ask you to tell us, at the very end of this, we're going to go through a couple things where you will tell us which would be your favorite. You also shared with us that you had concerns about loss of parking spaces. I share that concern myself. So we've done some things to look at how can we protect those, and you'll hear some of that today too. So those things are very important to us. And interestingly, the first east rendering showed 2 pickleball courts. Now, we've got a huge percentage of the community today that seems to be very interested in pickleball, going back to a petition that was done in the spring, pushing us in that direction. And those people are telling us that 2 pickleball courts won't cut it. They would keep us from competing in county competition and all that kind of thing, and I'm not even sure what's out there relative to that, but we may have to figure out a way to get 4 pickleball courts in here, and I know that it's still a challenge in one of the options Dave will show us. The other one, there's an easy solution, so there's work to be done though. But those are the things you've told us, and that's where we are today. But again, in just a few moments, I'll get out of the way and let Dave show you pictures and drawings and all those kind of things to tell you more about that. That takes me to the future. And this is one of the reasons I'm excited, because this is about a 3.5-year effort. And we're a couple of months or 3 months from the opportunity to vote and find out what you guys think about what we've been working on. And you're going to help us today in deciding between a couple of options on the Wellness Center and some discussion about what we take to the referendum when the time comes to bring this out, when we actually get to February. If I were sitting in your shoes, and I've been on the other side of this, and if I were in your conscience, there might be some things that I'd be thinking about that, you know what, it all sounds good, but I got some big concerns that might kill that. And I'm sure we'll hear some things today that people have on their minds, and I welcome that, because all of our opinions are important. There are 4 things that I was thinking about, trying to put myself in your shoes. And one of those, because I've heard it since coming back this fall, is that we've got some infrastructure issues. And why should we be doing this new stuff when we've got some things we need to take care of right now? And the 2 big ones I've heard about are the Summerlin Road perimeter. It's kind of ugly. I think we all got to admit that. And some of our lakes. And I went out and played golf for the first time. I just had hip surgery, so I'm real proud of the fact that I got out there and played without pain. So if you guys want to applaud that, that's okay. But that's all right. Thanks. I appreciate it. I was really proud. I called my wife as soon as I got back. But anyway, I got a first-hand look at some of the lakes, and I agree. They are horrendous. Not all of them, perhaps, but a lot of them. I could tell you yesterday, relative to the Summerlin perimeter, we passed a movement to have Kathy get started on getting an architect's rendering and some estimated cost on fixing the look of Summerlin. And we have a plan in place already that Kathy and her staff has initiated to address some of the lake issues. I happen to be a water chemist by degree and by profession. I think there's some other things we can do, and over the next couple of days, we're going to actually be talking about some of those that wouldn't necessarily be terrifically expensive that could put in some fixes. So it's not going to be in 2 weeks. We're not going to have the most beautiful lakes in the world, but we're moving on these things, and that should not stop us from doing what's right for Kelly Greens relative to our amenities. We can do those things at the same time. Another concern or something that pops in my head when I think about if I were you, we've had people talk to us loud and clear about experiences in the dining room, that they haven't all been as positive as we would like them to be. As a master board, we recognize that. I can tell you as an individual, I recognize it. I've seen some of those experiences. We also have a movement afoot to address those kind of, address that very concern. When we get finished with this, I hope that your master board will be able to tell you that when you come into this restaurant, you're going to walk away having had a wow experience. We get that in our favorite restaurants around Fort Myers, whichever one yours happens to be. and there's no reason we shouldn't get that here. And we acknowledge that we don't have that perfected, but we're going to be moving in that direction. Again, it's a concern. I don't think that it's something that would keep us from at the same time trying to do something that has significant potential up value for Kelly Greens. And I'm not just talking financials. I'll address that in a second. Another thing I was thinking, or when I was thinking about if I were you, what might be on my head, or in my head, was one that I've heard from several people. I heard it from an email that circulated around, that this strategic planning committee and the board is, all they're trying to do is turn Kelly Greens into a resort community. You hear the word resort pool. You hear the words about an enhanced wellness facility and yada, yada, yada. I could see where somebody could interpret that to mean that we're trying to turn Kelly Greens into a resort community. But when Linda put up that, what'd you call the little board that showed all the words? The word cloud. You saw location as a big one in there. You saw the golf course as a big one in there. But if you go out and look on that chart out there, you're going to see the ones that are written the biggest and not the most, because the word cloud showed the most. But people, the people is just all over that board. The Kelly Greens culture is not the golf course. It's not the Motel 6 pool versus a resort pool. The Kelly Greens culture are the people sitting in this room. It's you and me. It's the people. And putting in a resort pool, call it that if you will, call it in a fancier pool, call it a pool that will enhance the social opportunities we have to get together and experience each other. That's what this is about. It's not talking about changing the Kelly Greens culture. It's talking about an enhancement of that culture and more opportunities for us to experience it with our friends and the new people we meet every day and the people that we like to socialize with. So I don't think that's what we're trying to do. I think we're talking about an enhanced thing here. Turning it around a little bit, away from why might I not want to support this? If I were in your shoes, I might think, why should I support this? There is a large potential return on investment here. It got some play back in the spring when we were going around to different communities and talking about it, but it's that wellness opportunity, an opportunity for, again, a return on investment from a wellness perspective. Had we had one of these industry experts come before you today who does not have a stake in the ground, has nothing to do with this project or anybody else's, but he is a guy that we hope to have in January for you now that can talk about what he sees around the world. He has an international reputation. He would tell you that one of the largest movements afoot in clubs today is the wellness movement. And when we talk about some of the things that are in this amenity package, an enhanced wellness center, enhanced opportunities for racket sports, bocce ball, and what have you, and even tying in things like outdoor casual dining linked to a pool where the social experience can be enhanced. All those things work toward mental and physical wellness experiences. And we believe strongly, I can tell you I do. You can say you got your head up your butt. I get told that a lot. But I truly believe that the wellness experience here can be enhanced. And all of us, if we take advantage of those opportunities, could impact the rest of our lives. And when it comes down to it, I think we all live here because we want to have fun. We want social experiences with people. And I believe that some of these packages, or this package that we're talking about, and some of the tools within this package can bring us additional things relative to that. And I'm going to conclude with just two other thoughts. One is that we recently found an article. Can we get the U.S. News and World Report recently, just I think a couple of months ago, actually came out with its list of top places to retire. Guess where number one is? Fort Myers. Lucky us. We're ahead of the curve. We got here before the report was written. Two things happen when you see something like that. One is we feel good because we already did it. We're in the number one spot. Isn't that wonderful? There's another thing that happens, and that's that all those people living up near me in Rochester, New York, or where I used to be from in Middletown, Ohio, or the other 8 places I've lived up north, they're reading that stuff too. And those folks that are talking about retirement, when they get online, what are they going to look at first? They're going to look at Fort Myers. And they're going to look at communities in Fort Myers. And I would ask you this. This is something I kind of popped in my head the other day. If Kelly Greens were built today, if this community were built today, what would it look like? Would it have a Motel 6 pool? Would it have a 600-foot wellness center with room for a few machines and not else? Would it have those things? Would it have one dining option? Would it have an outdoor opportunity for sitting with friends and fire pits and all that kind of stuff? I think it would. I think it would. And as people look at communities in Fort Myers, if they still have an interest in golf, and a lot of them don't, but if they have an interest in golf and they consider a bundled community, when they go online, what do you want them to see? Do you want them to see the things that we have today, or do you want them to see the things we're talking about? I think we want them to see the things we're talking about. First of all, we want them here as new friends, but also we want them here because them coming and being desirous of our community helps to drive that financial return that I mentioned a little earlier. We have a vision that the Master Board adopted just last year. Did that one come up? Okay, my confidence is growing. We have a vision that says, the bold part of that says, by 2025, Kelly Greens will be the preferred bundle community. The preferred bundle community in all of Lee County based on the growth of property value. We can live that vision. I can tell you without moving forward on the amenities, I don't care what else we talk about, it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying we won't have a wonderful community, but that vision will not be achieved. If we move forward on what we're talking about today, we have a chance to do that. And I will tell you, when the time comes, I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to say yes because I believe it. And I hope that before February comes, most of you do. In fact, I hope 2/3 of you do, actually, because that's what we need. Okay, I'm going to get out of the way. I've had my fun in the sun here. I wanted to introduce our next guest, Dave Humphrey. Some of you met in focus groups. If you were in one of the first couple, you probably heard his name and seen pictures of stuff that have been passed out. Dave is the principal of his own architectural firm. I only had the pleasure of meeting him today because I've been up north, but I know he is well respected and knows a lot of stuff. And Dave's going to introduce to you the revised East rendition with a couple of the options, and I'll get out of the way and let him go.
Good morning. I love coming to Kelly Greens. I recognize a lot of you from the project we did in the past here. I've changed a little bit. I'm taller. Been wearing lifts in my shoes. My hair's a little different. And actually, ironically, it is the same color as the new Benjamin Moore paint color called Summer with Dee Dee Stupp. Gray hair. No, I'm really serious. So, Mike did a great job in stealing a lot of what I was going to say, but he's right on the money with respect to the concept of resort style. It used to be a dirty word. Now it's sought after. You know, when have you been to a resort that you didn't like? Why can you not have that? You're in Southwest Florida, for crying out loud. This is a place with outdoor, engage the outside. And the other thing, too, is projects are evolving. And the big thing that we've seen, the noticeable difference, is that members are taking back the reins of what they want. They're sick and tired of sitting in the back seat and just getting what they get. And the projects are evolving to evolve with their lifestyle. So it's, yes, you want to keep up with the competition. Yes, it affects property values. Those are kind of side components. The real reason is because you want to do it, and it encourages that interaction. So what a group of committee members here. 35. Are you kidding me? I haven't done 35 focus groups with 10 different clubs. So, I mean, it's just, the input's been wonderful. So the confidence level in what we've done is tremendous. So this project is the project formerly known as East with some adjustments. And let me kind of walk you through, if you can see some of these things between the monitor and so forth. But kind of like to point at some of the elements that you may have heard before, but our challenges and so forth. Beautiful property, there's vista potential and so forth. So what we try to do is not just create a solution, but create a solution that solves what your demands are, but does it in a way that can elicit an emotional, hopefully positive, response and enjoyment and engaging, and I'll kind of walk you through some of the elements that encourage that type of thing. Your existing site plan, there's the Motel 6 pool, little pro shop. So our expansion components are almost preset just based on what you have and what you want to maintain. The area that was talked about that we did try to investigate as potential was this area that looks like it may be subject to enhancement in your entry component, enhancing your entry gates and so forth. So that's why a lot of the solutions that were proposed earlier have been revised. But the other thing that altered some of our vision was just the activity of the cart barn and trying to segregate and keep the circulation and so forth clear. So you can see how it's kind of a natural solution to expand the kitchen on this side. Challenging to address the fitness world with a lot of the existing structure. Just so you know, we did do a study so that in the future we would know how much space to allow for. That's your existing entry. I like these canals. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I think they're pretty. But, you know, the throat here has, I don't know how many times I've come in and there have been cars already in line. And I don't know how you get the little person in that box. But it has been a problem. It is a problem, and it's very rare to have this type of thing. So I'm glad I'm glad that's an issue for you as members, owners. Anyway, we looked at what the potential was there, and the stacking lane is the biggest thing. We take that space and provide access, and then you can loop around, have the exit here. So this is just one possibility. Not part of this project, but it is something that we looked at to know how much room to leave over there. So, all right. So this is the new Emerald project, and the brown areas kind of show the elements that we're addressing. The existing clubhouse. So the expansion of the kitchen, the new bar and outdoor dining, the new kind of resort pool, bathhouse with a small pro shop. We're looking at adding the new tennis courts, of course, investigating the potential of bocce behind that area, new porte cochere. This particular option is showing the removal of the existing administration area and then the construction, relocate the administration area over into your multi-purpose building, and then creating a 2-story fitness activity building. And that responds to, and let me tell you, what you're doing here, these two major projects, right? The kitchen is one thing that's been a challenge ever since I can remember. But this outdoor component, like I said, you're in Southwest Florida. I mean, that is a huge, I want to engage in the activity. I want that kind of lifestyle. And that adds the component of, yes, you have a bar, but this adds that flip-flop casual, that I'm doing outdoor events, I'm doing outdoor activities, and that provides a great forum for getting together, and then how you do it to take the opportunity to engage the things that you like to do, the pool deck, yes, it's a pool, but it's also a focal point. It's an element that creates excitement and incites camaraderie and the synergy that happens between members. It's a very natural, very, very wonderful thing that happens. So that component has been one of the most sought after components to add to clubs across South Florida. The other one is fitness. Fitness is not going away, man. I mean, it's not just fitness, it's rehab, it's sports optimization, it's cognitive skills, which they've found very interesting that if you're thinking while you're working, meaning if you're doing a screen, some kind of screen work, and working out in accordance with what it tells you, it keeps your mind healthy as well. I've started that actually about 6 months ago, and look what I'm doing. So this particular plan does, so this is a 2-story, so it offers a level of fitness and equipment as well as classroom workout and activity rooms. This particular plan, just because of the restricted area on the site, does allow for 2 pickleballs, so you can play, but as was mentioned, the league play and interleague and county league play is tough to do that way. So it does let you play, but it's kind of restrictive with what you can do with it. We did address parking as well, trying to squeeze some parking in here, some different areas and reconfiguring access to the kitchen and so forth. So we're trying to enhance that as well as some additional parking kind of down the street, which I'll show you in a minute. So the building, you're probably familiar with this. So the expansion of the kitchen gives you a la carte and banquet, prep, all the proper support systems for plate up, storage, dry storage, employee break room. We also have service and a kind of grab and go program, which has been surprisingly successful kind of across the board when we've tried it. Last night's chowder, juices and so forth, so you can just pick those up and run. So, the bar area, again, you've witnessed what happens when you enhance your bar and create the island style, peninsula style kind of setup. So there's kind of a wonderful engagement across the bar. You can see your friends, you can be seen. It's just a very social type setting. So these will have roll-down screens. There's going to be a kind of a natural migration from, the daytime activity up to the bar, up to that outdoor space. Great cocktail hour type setting. So, pre-function, function. Little steel drum band there, dancing right down into the beach entry system. So it's just a fun setting, and like I said, in creating these solutions, rather than just solve it, when you solve it in a way that creates a memory, what do realtors call it, memory points, or the sizzle. This creates that excitement, and it takes you from something that's adequate to something that is, you can't wait to get back there. You want to bring your friends and your family, and it just is a place that you just want to hang out. We already know you like the people, so why aren't you there, for crying out loud? Anyway, the pool area has lap lanes. It's a 25-meter pool, so now you can officially have races here, and then crawl out the beach entry. You have restrooms and a little office. There's some shaded areas for the sun, combination of soft seating, fire pits, all the stuff that is you see at restaurants and you see at other clubs, and it's just such a desirable and resort style setting. So that's maintained. This is interesting lighting on this projector, but anyway, the concept is such that the pool area, and you can kind of see the migration of space from space to the bar to the seating area. The dormers and gable ends, kind of with the open glass there, kind of allow the sun to kind of wash differently as it moves around the room. So the room itself is kind of constantly changing during the day. So from the inside, again, very casual, very welcoming. Incorporate TVs so you can come and bring the kids or grandkids, hang out, let them play in the pool. You watch the game. You don't have to eat and run, go back to the house. This has been a big thing, just the integration of TVs and create a lifestyle that is the lifestyle that you want to live, and stay there with your friends and kids and drink a lot, because that's what makes the bottom line better. The exercise building, as I mentioned, so you have the downstairs area, basically 4 rooms. They could be all classroom workout spaces, meeting rooms. It depends on how you set those up from an equipment standpoint. These rooms can be opened up into one room. It can be 2 smaller rooms for yoga, Pilates, and Zumba, whatever that. It's kind of a witchcraft, isn't it? I'm not sure what that is, but anyway. Okay, so that was option A. This is the Emerald project with the fitness option B. These elements are pretty much all the same. The difference is this, that we did study going over the cart barn. The cart barn's really not designed for 2 stories, so we would actually have to take that building down and then build over that. So that's why that structure is, why that cost is a little bit more. But it does allow for kind of a wonderful setting for working out, and you know, we've done 2-story facilities in a number of places, and you know, when you have those treadmills and bikes along the window, the only danger is that you may never get off them and just whittle yourself down to nothing. So, but that is a wonderful setup, because this view is, if you recall, the view we were trying to exploit in a number of those options prior to this. So now what this does do, it does allow for 4 pickleball courts along here once you take the administration area down. And like I said before, the administration will move into the multi-purpose room. It still allows a small meeting room in the front there, so you still have some additional meeting rooms as well. So we did add 18 more parking spaces here. So this provides just another option, a little more full complement of amenities. So that's an interesting option. Like I said, the floor plan's pretty much the same for the clubhouse. The equipment building then, the first floor is the cart building, stays pretty much the same as it is now, but you have a couple of workout rooms, exercise, restrooms, access by an elevator, so you can, you know, take the elevator up to your stair stepper. Great. And then with respect to additional parking, which we have always thought was going to be a tail wagging the dog, there's an area right here we're investigating, in that, that we're investigating for employee parking. We can get about 20 spaces there, 22 spaces there, so that'll help overall with our requirements. So that is a really quick, broad brush approach of how we got to where we are. This is where I like to drop the mic and run. So I'm going to hand it back to Mike, and we can get into the budgets. Thank you.
Our next guest is Tom McQuarrie. He is an employee of Gates Construction, and we always like to remind this is in no way related to Bob Gates, one of our board members. Tom is going to talk about the estimated cost, and he's also going to talk a little bit about logistics. If we go forward with this project, what happens when we start tearing holes in the ground and all of that kind of thing, I believe. So, Tom, we'll turn it to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tom McQuarrie with Gates Construction. I'm the Director of Pre-Construction Estimating. And I know you've been looking at a lot of boring pictures, and I really want to make things exciting and talk about the budget now. So, real quick, we have 2 options. We've been through, it says option A and option B, but we're actually on X and Y. We've been through multiple budgeting exercises. But we're looking at the east side, what Dave has presented. Option A is to keep your existing cart barn and build a 6,000 square foot 2-story fitness and wellness center as a standalone building. We're looking at a total project cost of $9.7 million. Quarterly payment over a 10-year period is $307. So you're looking at about $102 per month. Option B, demolish the existing cart barn, construct a new 5,000 square foot cart barn and a 5,000 square foot fitness center on top of that. You're looking at a project total of $10.5 million. Quarterly payment $331. That's about $110 per month per door. So either option, you're only looking at $8 difference per month per door. I'm going to introduce Bill Postma. He's the project manager. He's done multiple clubhouses in Southwest Florida. And he's going to talk about the logistics and phasing a little bit of your plan.
I'm Bill Postma. I'm senior project manager with Gates. And we're doing, there you go, okay. senior project manager with Gates Construction. Done a number of clubhouse renovations and rework. I think one of the biggest things you guys are concerned about is how much you're going to be disrupted during the course of this construction. Our plan is to keep the clubhouse open for the entire process. In doing that, if you can go back to that slide that had the, there you go. Our intent is to work this area over here and the area up by the awning and terrace first. The duration of the whole project is about 12 months. The last thing we want to do is take the kitchen area out and disable the kitchen. That will take about 3 months to complete. The bar will remain open at that time, but you still won't be able to get food. But you will have alcohol, so that'll really put everybody else away. It's really, our goal is to make this as least disruptive to you people as possible and keep everybody safe. And we've done a number of these projects. Club remained open. We had carts going right through the center of the construction site and no problems. Did a job down at Gulf Harbor where we were raising trusses right next to the pool. People were occupying the pool and they were dropping trusses on the building. Golf carts were going by. So really is our primary focus to make this as comfortable through the process for you as possible.
Just one page, that's all. I'm John Slattery. I'm on the Strategic Plan Committee. My wife Kathy and I have lived here for 13 to 14 years, so we've been involved not only with the Strategic Plan Committee, but also with Veranda 7. So my role here is to talk about what's next. Got that up there? And what are we going to be doing now to January? I will tell you one thing that is really important is we're going to get the vote out. Get out the vote. That's a campaign that Rick Jenkins and I are heading. That, as you know, you heard some numbers before about how many people have answered surveys. Some 330 or up to 400. People are still arriving here. A lot of us are here, so we hope those numbers go up to maybe 450 or so, whatever that number is. We still have 939 doors, so there's a lot of people we haven't reached yet or haven't really had the opportunity to attend either the town hall meetings or the focus groups. So Rick and I, with a lot of volunteers, are going to be working through that for the rest of this week and into the early part of December to reach to those people. We have a database of the people that have attended sessions, so we're going to reach out to them and ask them if they have any questions, keep them informed, whatever it needs to be done to make them feel comfortable to get them to vote. Most importantly, we want to get people out to vote. So that's a big effort that's going forward right now. In prep for the master plan town hall meeting in mid-January, the Finance Committee and the Emerald Project capital plan and operating budget will be working on those depending upon the input from the member-centric theme that we have, listening and hearing. You see a lot of changes have already been made and more changes will be made. The architectural work necessary that Dave Humphrey's going to be working on along with Tom, that you heard the presentation from Gates Construction. They're going to be doing further estimating based on the changes that are being made from the input that we're getting here today and throughout the sessions. Master plan brochure. Once everything is completed with the round of activities, input from this session, the rework of the next iteration of the plan, the brochures will be done and completed by mid-January, so all the members will have a current view of what the plan looks like and what the costs are that are associated with that. The referendum will be completed after that, and the voting package is distributed to the owners, so that'll happen by late January. So there's a lot of activities going on behind the scene. We're not just shutting it down over the holidays. A lot of work to be done, a lot of good effort based on good volunteer work and good communications and member-centric theme that we talked about before. Lastly, we need your vote. we have a tough putt to make here. It's not just a quorum. We need to have 2/3 of the vote. That's a tough task, 2/3 plus 1. If you go back to the work that the strategic plan and the master board worked on a year ago, the reserve study, that was a tough thing to do. And I reminisced with Dee Dee the other day about the fact that we sat in the back of the room when it was announced, and we're so pleased that we did get the 2/3 vote for the reserves. And you're actually seeing some of that work already taking place, as witnessed by the sidewalks being repaired. That comes from reserves. So it can be done, but it can't be done without your help and enthusiasm, hopefully, that you heard here today. So with that, I'm done.
Hello. Okay, it dawned on me when they picked me to open this up for member comments is why'd they pick the biggest guy in the room to do this? So that dawned on me just a few minutes ago. So what we're going to do now is this. Hopefully what you have heard today so far has satisfied a lot of your curiosity. But with curiosity comes maybe more questions. Also more observations and comments that you may have for the general benefit of the whole and to satisfy yourself. So what we're going to do now are basically 3 steps. And so when we'll open this up, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to open up some time for all of you to have an opportunity to ask your question, make your observation. Somewhere along the line, I will then say, we're going to take like basically a straw poll. So think about, not to put anything in granite, but where is your general first impressions with the A and B that you saw there? Do you like to trend towards A? Do you like to trend towards B? So we're going to do a show of hands here in a few minutes just to kind of get a feeling for where you're trending there. After some more opportunity for comments, then we will talk about, I'll probably then ask you to get a sense of the community on where we are with the project, and our folks helping you will be handing you a piece of paper just to do a yes or no for a sense of the community. So with that, just please raise your hand, make yourself known, and wait for a microphone so that the person, so the rest of us can hear it. So, and it might help if you reintroduced yourself since everybody doesn't know each other's name. So.
Hi, I'm Roxanne Robinson, Manor 4. I was looking at A and B, and it looks like one of the options has a lot more meeting room space than the other option. Am I correct?
Yes.
Like double as much? Or?
Well, okay, so there's 1,000 more feet in A because it's 2 stories, and so we have 3,000 square feet basically of fitness, and then we have 3,000 square feet that's divided, dedicated to work out in the 2 that are flex spaces. So yes.
Thank you.
My name is Howard Taylor. I have a question about the design. I couldn't read on the screens, but the area just to the west of where the pickleball courts were designed to be, which would be at the end of the water area. Why can't the pickleball courts be placed along the road to the west there, near the entrance? And the second, because that would create a little more room where the administration buildings are currently. And the second thing is, are you looking at putting a flat roof on the tennis pro shop so that we can have an observation deck from there?
I'll take this one. All right. The first, can we go back to that site? Oh, right there. All right. So that area right here, I think you're talking about, that's the area that we were kind of earmarking for the future gatehouse. It's the only place you can create the depth. We can start on that next year. But that we're allowing the gatehouse, the circulation, the area to get past the gatehouse. We need that space to provide that for the future. So that's the main reason. The other, we're asked to put we're asked to put flat decks on a lot of buildings, and we can address that. The main issue is the whole ADA, the world of ADA, American with Disabilities Act. Accessibility is a big thing. When you go over 25 people, you need 2 ways out and you need an elevator. So that's probably the one sticking point that really stops us from doing a lot of that. But it's an additional cost, of course, as well. So those are the 2 main reasons you're at.
Could we have the options of the 2 options laid out? In other words, on the screen, just the layout of the 2 options.
Hi, I'm Gary. Excuse me, I'm Gary Smith. Bob, you and I have talked about this question. I've asked it before, but I haven't gotten an answer yet. One of the preliminary things that was discussed about the pros and cons of Kelly Greens is that we're landlocked. And I've asked, is there any reason why can't we get more land by filling in part of that pond that we always go around to the 10th hole to the west of the cart barn? If you filled in some of that, that would create more space to move some of these pieces around. I just haven't gotten any kind of an answer for that. And then the second thing is can we have, just a very quick question, can we have some sort of rendition on what the front will look like with that overhang and the building of the kitchen? Right now we know what the front of Kelly Greens looks like on the turnaround, but with those changes, it's pretty hard to visualize what's that going to look like. Thank you.
Dee Dee? All right, number one, okay, so when it comes to your water retention, and we have looked into this, and there's potential, but the basic answer is this, that there is a water quality issue, meaning some of the retention areas are required to control the water, drop the sediment out, and move it into the storage lakes. So some are storage lakes, some are water quality lakes. If there are vehicles that you can do, like these banks are all at a certain slope, are constructed at a certain slope from bank to bottom of lake. If that were to square off, for example, you'd pick up that triangular volume times the length that you could do that. If you do that, then you can move that in and steal that amount of land. So there's a cost to that. There's also an approval process through South Florida Water Management. So there's potential. The initial response was that you're very close to maximums on both your water quality and your volume. So we were seeking out other solutions to avoid that extra cost. So that's kind of where we are with that. What was your second question? So I don't know if you all heard. He's asking, can we get other renderings to show the front of the building where the kitchen is, as well as the fitness center? And of course is the answer. You can imagine with 35 focus groups and Dee Dee calling me after every one. And what we're trying to do is adapt the different, meld the two together. And so this is kind of a work in progress. So the answer is yes, we will. So you can see that, as well as the fitness center, what it looks like from the fitness center, depending on which one you want to do. But we didn't want to get the cart too much in front of the horse, other than give you some idea what we know is kind of one of the mainstays of the plan. So we will be doing that, yes.
Hi, Frank Jalafio. We've got all these projections for expense. Have you done any projections for revenue? Are you going to increase the if you look at the financial statement year to date, the restaurant is showing a 30% loss over last year. I mean, it's just becoming crazy.
The Finance Committee currently is working on pro formas, and a pro forma statement is not just the expense side, but they'll be looking at the revenue side as well, to determine what the anticipated generation of additional incremental revenue will be from having the outdoor casual dining. What we can tell you is based on hard data from RSM and from conversation with other GMs and board people at the other facilities that have done this. Nationally and locally, the average top line revenues have been between 35 and 40% when outdoor dining has been added. But the Finance Committee, that's their charge right now, is to do those pro forma statements.
Any thought given to opening up to the rest of the, because my understanding is there's another 800 people that have access to the property but don't have access to the amenities. Is that true?
They have access to property, Cinnamon Cove Villages, and currently our documents do not provide for any of those other housing developments to utilize our amenities.
I thought in the past the restaurant was open.
We had, from what I understand, many years ago the restaurant was, and in the summer there is a program that is available on an ongoing basis for social memberships. Our documents do not provide for that. It certainly can be something that can be looked at and be brought up to the board. Absolutely.
Thank you.
John Higgins. A couple of questions. You have an estimate of the costs, and meanwhile you're talking about potential change in the cost. I'm questioning the accuracy of the cost. Is there a contingency built into the numbers that we're seeing?
Yes, there is a contingency. How this cost is based, we're in schematic design. We've been through multiple options.
Did you use drawings?
I'm sorry?
Did you have drawings that you based the cost on?
Exactly what you see is what we base the cost on. So
So you have drawings of these facilities to the details that you put in this
no,
cost
they're
on?
not detailed out yet. We haven't actually finalized every detail. These are rough order magnitude numbers.
Order
We're
of magnitude. So what is the contingency number?
We have a 10% contingency. We have based this on historical data from all of our other clubhouses that we have
And that's based on no
constructed.
changes from what we've seen so far, and we're talking about changes.
Correct.
So the number's not frozen that we're looking at.
They're not frozen. If somebody picks a gold fixture, we have not accounted for
Do
that.
we know what the increase in the operating costs are of the new facilities? You talked about a 40% increase in revenues for food. And if we're losing 30% on the food now, do we lose 30% on the food in the future?
John, the pro forma operating statements is exactly what the Finance Committee is currently working on.
When will that be available?
In January, whenever we present the entire master plan.
So that'll be in detail before we vote.
What will be in your hands before anyone is asked to vote is the specific master plan with the renderings that are much more detailed, interior and exterior. You will have a final construction number. In addition to that, you will have a pro forma operating statement on the operations of the amenities. All of that will be in your package. And if there's anything else that you feel that you'll need to make an educated
I would like
decision.
some more information on the details of the transition plan. You mentioned earlier about the restaurant being open. I'd like to know the impact on how long the other facilities will be closed. The gym and the swimming pool, and how long will we be out of business, and how long will that take place?
Bill can answer that, John.
This working? Yeah. The pool will be closed for the entire process for a year.
The pool will be closed for a year.
Correct.
How long will the gym be closed?
The restaurant will be closed for 3 months while we build a new restaurant out. The bar will be open. The fitness center, depending on what we do over there, will be closed for 9 months.
So we'll be out of business 9 to 12 months
Yeah.
of some key
Correct.
facilities here.
Correct.
Thank you.
Hi, Jan Kulturi. The only financial question I'm interested in is what is this project going to do to the reserve calculations that we pay quarterly? I mean, I think people need to know that we're going to have to reserve for the new pool. And, you know, I mean, it's not going to be $200 a quarter. And I'd just like to see, because once you build those new facilities, you're going to have to start reserving for them. And I'd like to see that number, not that, you know, and people need to know what it's going to cost ultimately. That's just
Absolutely. The one thing, and that is part of the, and I probably failed to say that, when they do the pro forma operating statement, they're also going to be doing the capital budgeting for a 5-year capital budget. That's part of their responsibility. Just keep in mind one thing, just as a general response to that. Absolutely, the reserves will change. But the one good news is you're replacing, we started reserves very advanced in the life cycle of a lot of these assets. And so we were way behind. Once we reconstruct or construct something new, then we're in the first year of its life cycle. And so we're not playing catch up. So it may not have an adverse effect on the reserves.
Bill Caper. Is this all right? Okay. Yeah, pardon? Okay. My question would be, I see a contractor here, so apparently this is a no-bid contract? There's not other contractors coming in, or are we bringing in 3 or 4 contractors to bid?
We went through an interview process with several other general contractors, and the board selected Gates Construction. The process for our bidding is an open book process, so the board will see every single subcontract bid that comes in. There's an agreed upon percentage of overhead and profit, so it's basically a cost plus job. So it's open book, and we promote ourselves on transparency.
Okay, so and when this goes to vote, you feel you'll have very clear pricing, so people can be comfortable. I realize you have a real nice contingency.
Absolutely. Let me explain the process, the bidding process. Right now, we're what we call in the schematic design phase, and we provided schematic pricing. So when the architect gets to the next level drawings, maybe 33% completion, we'll perform another detailed estimate. And what this does, it'll be compared line by line to where we're on the schematic. So if one of those line items are out of line or misplaced, we're going to have a meeting, go through a value engineering process, we're going to go through constructability process, and we're going to bring that back in line. We're going to do the same budgeting exercise at 66% level drawings, keep that in line. So then what we refer to as the guaranteed maximum price. That's when the drawings they're complete. We're going to put it out on the street for subcontractors to bid that. So when we're doing 3 or 4, whatever it takes in between there, and bringing that cost so we don't get out of line. We don't want it to get to that guaranteed maximum price phase and be too high. So we're doing multiple budgets throughout to keep it in line throughout the entire process. So even at that guaranteed maximum price phase, if we are over the anticipated budget, there are still opportunities to bring that within the budget. And we pride ourselves on meeting budgets.
I have a few questions. I think these will be simple questions. Number 1, how many parking spaces will we have with either of those plans, and how does that differ from what we currently have?
So the right. So version A gives you, let's see, 198, and then the 20. So 218. And then the other one gives you 8 more than that, so 224.
So no fewer parking spaces than what we currently have is what you're saying?
Correct.
Question 2, will the routes to the golf course be the same as they are now?
I'm sorry, the what?
Will the routes, will the cart route to hole 1 and
hole
hole
the
10?
route, yes, the routes will be maintained, yes, they will be.
Okay. Is the vote that we're expected to do in January going to be an all or nothing vote? I mean, you vote for the whole plan or no plan at all?
You're going to help us decide that. In just a couple minutes, Bob's going to ask you to do something for us, And your input and the input of everyone that attends the town halls will help the board decide how the referendum will actually be worded.
Okay. And one more thing. We discussed the infrastructure changes that are necessary around the lakes, along Summerlin Road, and actually the front gate entrance as well. I'm assuming that all that will, at some point in the near future, if we go through with those, require another assessment? True or no?
That's a difficult question to answer with certainty. With our reserves, it does help us. With our operational excesses that we typically have, that can help us. With the new member fund, as approximately 50 houses sell every year, that will help us. Part of the charge of the Finance Committee going forward, in addition to what they're doing with the Emerald Project, I believe what's on the docket is to really take a look at that and really try to, how can I say it, spread out, and that's not the right word, to project over the next several years, 5 to 10 years, all of the different infrastructure needs, and to look at the sources and uses of the funds, of how they'll come in and what will be those needs. That's something that establishing the reserves was the first component of that, and then really learning of a lot of the infrastructure situations about the lakes and everything. It's been a learning process. They've been here for 30 years, and I think the community as a whole was not fully knowledgeable as to what was going on with the lakes. And so it's a work in progress, but I don't think that I don't think it would be an accurate statement for any of us to stand up in here and say, yes, we will have an assessment at that time for that. There's just way too many components that enter into it.
Okay, let's
And
move over.
one comment. It looks like when you showed the initial rendering of where the possible new gate would be, it looks like no matter how you look at it, those pickleball courts are going to interfere with that. That's just a comment. You can.
Very good. Over here.
At Van Cleve, I'm very much in favor of going forward with one of the plans. I just wanted to know where the small group meeting rooms will be now that you're taking out a big chunk of the current activity center for the accounting office.
Okay, so there's still actually a meeting room in the multi-purpose room, multi-purpose building, but then there are 2 activity rooms in the version A program at the ground level. So,
is there any way to keep the current activity room for large groups and not lose that?
if you don't mind, a few accountants in there.
All right.
What is the size of the classrooms in Plan B, and what is the size of our current activity center?
Right now in Plan B, the classrooms are about the same. They're about 750 apiece, so 1,500 square feet. And right now, that multi-purpose room, it's kind of a workout room, is about 850, I think.
My name is Tom Thorpe. The Strategic Planning Committee and the Master Board hosted the local realtors. From what I've been told by several of the realtors, in that meeting, they hosted them so they could present the Emerald Project to them. From what I've been told by a few of the realtors, the consensus of the opinion of the local realtors was that this project would not enhance our values whatsoever. I'm just curious, is that correct, or what do you feel about that?
We did host the realtors, and we had realtors that were both residents of Kelly Greens and those that were not residents of Kelly Greens. And there was a diversity of opinion in there, and I don't believe that you could say there was a consensus. Several of the realtors said exactly what you just said, Tom. They felt that it would not impact the value of the properties. However, they also said that it promotes a greater breadth of, or a greater pool of buyers, because when you have more amenities that are more diverse and they're more common to what other communities have, that you bring about more people can come into Kelly Greens because they would have those amenities. The reason that I said that you really could not say, and I disagree that it was a consensus, there were several realtors in there that felt very much that improving the amenities would improve economically Kelly Greens as a whole.
Okay, we're going to come back to more comments and questions, but just I want to take the breather to just get a straw poll, obviously nothing in granite, but I'm just going to do it by a show of hands if we're trending towards A or trending towards B. So my helpers out there, you could open your eyes, because I can't count everybody myself. So those of you that would trend towards A, would you please help share and raise your hands? Who trends towards A? Both plans have addressed the fact that we're going to keep that space open to facilitate the design, because we've heard that's a, but both plans, am I correct, save that property so that we can then address that.
All right, so the major difference, okay, is just the fitness center. You understand that? A provides for a 2-story fitness center behind the cart barn, so you're leaving the cart barn, with two pickleball. So 6,000 square feet with 2 pickleballs. B is 5,000 square feet with 4 pickleballs. That's the basic difference. You are rebuilding the cart barn, however, to do that. He's asking what's going to happen to the carts and the bags. Typically, when we do that kind of thing, there's a tent that's rented and that's used, that's electrified and used in part of your area, your parking lot, or some other area that works. But you can still play golf.
Okay.
All right. So do you understand the difference between A and B?
All right. Like I said, this is just a sense. So, give me a sense of A. Show me hands again. Show me all right. So that's A. All right. Those of you that just a sense of B, show us their hands. All right. Well, I don't know if we need a count. But that's just a sense. Okay, any more? So we're going to move on. A little bit more comments and items. You've been waiting over here. Then I'll come.
Just want to say one thing. These are still conceptual drawings. It sounds like there's a lot of concern possibly that the second story is maybe not big enough on that 5,000 square feet for the cart above the cart barn. Those kinds of things can be changed. They can be worked on. If we feel we need another 500 square feet up there, that can certainly happen.
Jerry Bud, yes, I have a question on the cart barn and the fitness center, and also the new proposed entranceway into Kelly Greens. Will that tree out front be taken down?
Which could
the
you be more
tree in
specific?
front of the huge tree in front of the cart barn that's there now?
The Swiss Family Robinson tree? Do you think I could lift my head and walk through this community if I took that tree down? No.
Either way,
No.
With the entranceway or the
We're going to
new
put little
double-
cabanas in the first limb. So, no, that's staying. That was one of the things we wanted to avoid, and actually kind of worried about it in one of the first project. As beautiful as that solution could have been and the views, it was a hard push to think about taking that tree down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All this stuff you're trying to put in an area, you're limited to your area. I know that's a small parcel. Is that going to be too jammy in one section for what we're trying to put into one small area?
Are you talking about? Can you go back to one or the other?
Where you're doing the cart barn and all that stuff.
Are you talking about this area?
No, the
Or
whole thing.
this-
The whole thing there. Are
we like to think of it as cozy.
cozy? Yeah.
No, I mean this you'll hardly notice any difference at all.
Really?
No.
Wow.
You're going up. I mean the footprint's a little bit bigger, but there's a lot of space there.
Okay.
I don't know if you're talking about this place, this area either, but it's going to be so beautiful that you are going to fall to your knees and weep like a baby. Okay?
All right, thank you. Over here.
My name's Darlene Phillip. I just wanted to step back a little bit to our focus groups and how the questions were asked in those focus groups. We had a east plan and a west plan that we were asked to vote for, but we also had the option of going down through all the amenities and judging whether we felt those were critical or important or whatever, and room for comments. I haven't seen any of that data from anybody. Not the east and west. We saw that, but none of the details. One of the things that I've heard quite a bit about is the resort pool. There's a lot of people who use the pool now that say, well, I use the pool, it needs to maintain its privacy. Now that's the last thing that the drawings of the resort pool are doing. I don't know how people feel about that. If you want people, having dinner at the pool when you're in using it, particularly, sure, it's fine when the kids are there playing. I've heard a lot of negatives about that. I've heard a lot of negatives about pickleball and the noise. I'd just like to see the data and the comments in terms of what that is.
Okay.
Fair comment, completely. I will tell you, there have been over 22 comments that we are 2,200 comments, and there have been a handful of people that have been working diligently on doing it. It is an enormous task. Hopefully within the next couple of days, 1,650 of those comments had been transcribed and categorized, because with that many, Darlene, you have to then categorize them as well, or it's just meaningless. So we are working on that. All of the other questions that were on the feedback form, those were much easier, and we do have that data, but we prefer to wait until everything is done, and then that will be posted on our website, and you'll get a link to it. We want you to have that feedback. That was the whole purpose of doing it. So I would say probably within a week that would be out there.
But in the meantime, we're moving ahead with the full vision as it was,
Well,
without incorporating that feedback.
Oh, okay, that part is not correct. The feedback has been looked at and reviewed. The changes that were made to these new drawings that Dave did were specifically changes that were that a preponderance of Kelly Green's members that were in the focus groups gave. That's how these changes came about. They didn't come about from your master planning committee. They were specifically from the changes that were that really were trending of what
All
people
right,
asked
thank
for.
you. I do have just one other comment. Please don't belittle the use of the current activity center. There's quilting, sewing groups, there's artist groups, there's card groups. It is used quite a bit. Maybe it's not obvious, but a lot of space is needed for some of those groups, and just keep that in mind. And the
Absolutely.
library, also the little library that's in
I'm Linda Boza, and I just had a question.
The new building is going to be, I'm assuming, a newer architectural design. How is that going to look with the old building? Are we going to change the facade of the old activity center?
Yeah.
And is there any way we can combine the two?
Sure. I mean, we have a tendency when you have a campus like you have to continue the architectural theme and or enhance it where we can, as long as it's compatible. So from the exterior point of view, we'll try to maintain some semblance of what you would recognize as Kelly Greens. The inside is where you can take advantage of, not apologizing for being a little more uptown, or fitness centers are always a little more trendy. And since the area that we're adding is outdoor, it can have a different complexion as well. So it'll all be very compatible, but I think we're seeing kind of across the board a slight transition to more transitional style architecture, a little cleaner, a little, and actually you've already done this with whoever did this, who did a wonderful job, by the way, and in addressing kind of the current state of interior development. So if that helps.
And I was just wondering, was there anything done about the delivery trucks? An easier way for them to get in and out?
We don't allow them anymore. Actually, specifically, that was the one thing that bugged me more than anything about that whole parking area. And so what we've done is, this doesn't show the actual circulation pattern, but you can imagine coming in off of, what is that, Kelly, what was the other one? The one, Kelly Sands Way. So if a big truck came in there, it would come down that new, this new area, could pull through here and then back up, and then not be in front of a lot of cars, not backing up 17 miles from some, good heavens, how do they not hit half of the cars that are parked there, for crying out loud, or pull into one of the tennis courts? Anyway, so yeah, because they back up right here now. So this is all forward until they back up, and they're hidden in these walls here. So so you won't see Cisco trucks anymore. So.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yes, my name is Jack Adams. I don't see how the planning committee can put the main entrance off to do all this other stuff. It's very dangerous. It's just an accident waiting to happen. Every morning when I go by, there's trucks backed up out on the highway. So I don't see how we can ignore that to do all this first. Thank you.
We're just asking 2 questions. All right, there's just 2 questions and 2 answers, yes or no. All right, number 1. It's not, and that's anonymous. Don't put your name on them. But what we'd just like to know, as a sense of the community, do you support the animal project? Don't read anything into it. It's just a factual statement. Do we support it? Yes or no from reading. And then number 2, and I think this question came up earlier about the all or nothing. There is an opportunity to give your first impressions on that question. So without overthinking it, it's 2 questions and it's yes or no. And so our folks that handed this out, we're going to collect this as a data point. It's non-binding, right? Nope, just fill them out. Everybody that's here. And because it's non-binding, there's nothing about it. It just gives us the opportunity for the sense of the community. Then, once you've completed that, we will collect that up. If there's anything overwhelming that absolutely positively must be said, we can take that. But other than that, we have an item for you on your way out for thank you for coming. So make sure you pick that up.